Neil watches PFT, and Neil asks questions on PFTOT. And this dovetails exactly with what we were just discussing with the receiver market as crazy as it is. Could a team who is really good at scouting and developing receivers like the Steelers begin overdrafting at the position and trading away veterans to get a return on investment on their picks? Look, I don't see the Steelers doing things any differently than they do them. They're always looking for receivers in the mid to late rounds, and then they'll deal with a glut if they have a glut. And right now they've got Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. Deontay Johnson is due for a new contract or free agency next year or franchise tag. Chase Claypool is 1 year behind. It really reminds me of the situation they dealt with Mike Wallace and Antonio Brown a decade ago. They tried to do a deal with Mike Wallace. Mike Wallace didn't want what they were offering. They gave it to Antonio Brown, and Wallace left via free agency. And then the Steelers have that departure count toward potential compensatory draft picks. The other alternative is to trade one of these guys. And I said at one point in the offseason, after Devontae Adams was traded from the Packers to the Raiders, Packers should trade for Chase Claypool. And we heard Chase Claypool say this week that he knows he's a top 3 receiver in the NFL, and a lot of people scoffed at that. I think in the right offense, he could be a top 3 receiver in the NFL, where you have a quarterback who can take advantage of his ability to get open down the field. He's got a lot of Randy Moss qualities. We just haven't seen him showcased yet. And he's got a ton of confidence, obviously, and most great receivers do. But it could be that Johnson gets paid and Claypool gets traded, and they continue to backfill with the young receivers that they have such a great knack for drafting. But that's the tension fundamentally for every team with a great young receiver. Do we go back to the well and draft and hope we can get somebody as good, if not better, and then trade this guy, or do we pay him? It's going to be a tough decision for a lot of teams as the market continues to go up and up and up. Another one from Neil Watches PFT. It seems like the Chiefs and the Packers are the teams that want draft picks to develop talent instead of the Raiders and the Rams who trade for talent. Will Patrick Mahomes eventually become disenchanted with that approach the same way Aaron Rodgers has? Well, look, you have to put a great team around a guy, and I'm sure they got Patrick Mahomes on board with the idea of trading Tyreek Hill and getting more assets for him, understanding that Mahomes is going to be the quarterback of the Chiefs far longer than Tyreek Hill is playing for the team, far longer than Travis Kelce is playing for the team, that there will be a revolving door of supporting characters that will come in and help Patrick Mahomes flourish year in and year out. You've got to do a good job of drafting and developing, though. The Packers have been obsessive about drafting and developing. The Chiefs this year went out and signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling, a free agent from the Packers, and Juju Smith-Schuster, a free agent from the Steelers. So they're more willing to go out and try to get veteran talent. But yeah, that's the challenge. If you're not going to pay the guys who develop as stars, can you replace them? Does it make sense to replace them or pay them? And one of the reasons we've seen so much activity with receivers being traded this year is you've got some teams that are willing to say F them picks and other teams that are willing to say, we'll take those picks. The Chiefs were thrilled to avoid the obligation to pay Tyreek Hill, to pick up 5 draft picks in return. And as we learned, and as previously mentioned from episode 1 of It Needed to Be Said, there were issues percolating between Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs. Maybe more than percolating. Maybe it was reaching full boil. And they managed to keep it under wraps. But that burden of having a guy who's not happy with how often he's getting the football, that can knock your team off balance too. So the Chiefs were happy to trade him. The Dolphins were happy to trade for him. The Titans were happy to trade A.J. Brown. The Eagles were happy to trade for him. The Packers were happy to trade Devontae Adams. The Raiders were happy to trade for him. That is the two sides that you need in order to make these deals happen. And I expect that they're going to continue. Neil watches PFT again. Do you think some of the owners are in bed with some of the Congress people? Representative Fox and Representative Comer seem to want to let everything slide and move on. I assume that's a question arising from Wednesday's hearing. And I don't know that. Look, I'm not. We've got kind of this knee-jerk reaction now that anybody who says something must be getting paid or must be in bed with whoever benefits from it. I just think this is more a reflection of the fundamental ideology. It's the Republican Congress people that want to ignore these issues, frankly, and not investigate big business, not investigate wealthy individuals, because the way it works And this is not statement of political opinion. This is statement of political dynamic. The rich and the powerful business interests tend to be Republican and align with Republican members of Congress. And on the other side, the Democratic side, it's more about the average common person. That's just the way it is. So I've never considered, oh, somebody's on the take here. No, that's just the way it is. That's the ideology. That's the mindset. And it does benefit the NFL at times. It also hurts the NFL when Jim Jordan swoops in and starts pressing Roger Goodell on Jack Del Rio's fine. So the NFL can be caught in the middle at times, but most of the owners are of the conservative political mindset, in large part because they don't like paying taxes. And the more money you have, the more taxes you pay, you become more inclined to align with conservative political ideology, which favors reducing taxes. And yes, plenty of people, especially wealthy people, vote with their wallets. And it's amazing to me, frankly, how many people who don't have a lot of money don't vote with their financial interests and get caught up in social and cultural issues that cloud their thinking as to what it means to them financially to align with one party over another. Another one from Neil Watch's PFT. Snyder has been the biggest headline in the NFL mishandlings lately, but is there any update on either the Flores lawsuit or the pay per loss allegations? Well, the Brian Flores lawsuit will be caught up in this threshold question of whether or not it goes to the NFL's secret rigged kangaroo court. Motion was filed earlier this week to put the entire lawsuit in arbitration, not outside arbitration, but arbitration conducted by the National Football League. So that goes forward. As to the Ross allegation of offering Brian Flores $100,000 per game to lose in 2019 in order to enhance draft position, there's something in the paperwork filed by the NFL that hints at what the NFL may be trying to do there. No updates yet. The investigation continues, conducted by Mary Jo White, who's gotten enough NFL work recently to cause me to opine. I'm not stating this as fact, but I believe, it's my opinion, that one of the reasons she keeps getting work from the NFL is she keeps telling the NFL what it wants to hear. So whatever the NFL wants the Stephen Ross outcome to be, chances are that's what the NFL is going to get. And even though I thought early on, after talking to some people in the know, that maybe Ross was in trouble, I think all of the dynamics taken together suggest that they're going to find a way to maybe tell us he was joking. He didn't really mean it. There's no credible evidence that there was a real offer made. It was never reduced to writing and signed by Stephen Ross or some BS like that if it comes to it. One more from Neil Watch's PFT before we move on. Is there any movement on a Kyler Murray deal? Would Kyler hold out of training camp without one? No word yet. I fully expect them to get something done before the start of training camp. But the question does then become, will he show up? Maybe we'll see a short holdout, but that would just be to get the final deal done. I think that just like with Deebo Samuel, effort to plant a flag on a potential trade before the draft. And I think once it didn't happen, I think that maybe Kyler Murray got a little dose of self-awareness, recognizing that there isn't going to be a long list of teams that line up to get him. I mean, the Broncos went for Russell Wilson. They didn't try to trade for Kyler Murray. They could have tried to trade for Kyler Murray. I don't think anybody really tried to trade for Kyler Murray. I think Murray just needs to do the best deal he can with the Arizona Cardinals and move on with his career, recognizing he's not going to get top of the market, but maybe trying to get toward where the top tier currently is, understanding that the top tier is going to continue to go north. Our good friend Pauline from the UK, London game premium tickets on sale this week. Are you coming to see your Vikings? Folks, we can't. We work on Sundays. We have to be in studio or in my home studio connected directly to Stamford, Connecticut for Football Night in America. Those games are played in London. They're not played at night, Eastern time. They're played in the afternoon, London time. So NBC doesn't have one of those games and never will have one of those games. So I'd love to come. It's going to have to be in the off season at some point. I'm going to put getting a passport back on my list of things to do so Sims and I can come over there at some point and visit with. And it really is amazing to me how many loyal and rabid fans we have in the UK of PFT Live and increasingly of what we do at ProFootballTalk.com. And look, I mean this as a compliment. I feel like the fans in the UK are more passionate about what we do because they are more adept at seeing through the BS, and they're not willing to just shake pom-poms and say everything is awesome, which plenty of media, frankly, who cover the NFL in the US tend to do, pandering to the powers that be, dumbing it all down for the purposes of a mass audience that doesn't want to know what's really going on and that happily is hypnotized by the glitz and the glitter and the glamour. The folks in the UK, they like it when the BS gets called because they're wired that way. So I don't know, maybe I do need to move there after all. Our good friend Leapers 500, could Arch Manning, when and if his time comes, be the person who says, I'm not going to be drafted by just anyone, I want to choose where I go, and destroy the draft? Well, it wouldn't destroy the draft. He would just be the once every generation or so aberration who stands up and says, I'm not signing a contract with the team that takes me with the first overall pick. Now, he's got a long way to go before he's the first overall pick, obviously. He just made a verbal commitment to the University of Texas. He's not even in college yet. What kind of a player is he going to be? Will he be good enough to be regarded as a potential number one overall pick? But if he is, we know his uncle Eli did it under the cover that was provided by his father, Archie. Maybe grandpa will do it again, or dad will do it again and be the one to say he doesn't want to play for whichever team it is that holds the first pick that year. And this is explained in Playmakers. If you haven't gotten it yet, what are you waiting for? What are we waiting for? But Eli Manning had a visit to the Chargers in the 2004 pre-draft process. And he sensed the dysfunction that prevailed in the organization at the time. GM A.J. Smith, Coach Marty Schottenheimer, they didn't like each other. They didn't agree on how to manage the team, how to run the team, how to build the team. And Eli felt like there wasn't clarity, there wasn't unanimity on whether or not they even wanted him. So he didn't want to go there. Why be thrust into that situation if the GM wants me but the coach doesn't? Remember, they had Drew Brees at the time. They drafted Eli Manning and then traded for Phillip Rivers. But maybe Marty Schottenheimer wanted to ride with Drew Brees. Why does Eli want to be the part of that if he's got an option to go somewhere else? And he did. So I'm a firm believer that anyone who has the leverage, who isn't happy with the team that is sufficiently bad to earn the first overall pick, that I don't want to go be part of that team, I'm a firm believer you should make your power play. The problem is the fans get all mad and indignant. You wouldn't get mad and indignant if it was your son, your brother, your cousin, your nephew, your friend, your client, whoever. But they get mad at anybody who upsets the apple cart. We got to respect the draft. It's an honor and a privilege. So I think there should be somebody every year who's willing to do it, the guy who is regarded as the top prospect. And if in a given year, the team that holds that first overall pick really isn't attractive to the kid who's destined to be the first overall pick, I say go for it. But we know that the Manning family has been willing to do it, and it worked out well for Eli. So I wouldn't rule it out for Arch. Carl has a question also about Arch Manning. With his NIL value projected to be several million per year, we may soon see, or we soon may see top-tier college quarterbacks pulling in $3 to $5 million in NIL money, where top guys may soon make more per year from NIL than what first-round picks take. Does the NFL need to rework, my eyes aren't very good today, rework the rookie wage scale? No. Look, I think the NFL kind of likes the idea that guys will stay in school a little bit longer. That placates the football coaches at the college level because, again, college football is the NFL's free farm system. Stay in school. The NFL always pushes that. Stay in school, stay in school, stay in school. So if you stay in school and get paid, fine. Then you make the jump to the NFL. The NFL still pays what it pays. And if you're making big money, NIL as a college player, then you're probably going to make big marketing money when you come to the National Football League. So I don't see anything changing in that regard. And I think the NFL likes the fact that the ability of players to make money from their name, image, and likeness at the college level will indeed cause them to maybe stick around school a little bit longer. Okay. Jake McCain wants me to post a link on Twitter when it's up. Having a hard time finding these on the site. I will indeed post today's show up there. I've got to run, so we're going to wrap this up here pretty quickly. Tom Marshall, A-Red Zona UK. Will we see Gronk back playing before or after Thanksgiving? That's a great question. Look, I really do think money is at the core of this decision by Gronk to retire. I think he doesn't want to play for 8, 9, 10 million. I think he should at least get 15 million, given what receivers are now making. And I think he probably thinks that, and he knows he can't say it. I know I said that earlier this week. Still believe it now. Nothing's changed over the last couple of days. I will say after Thanksgiving. Put me down for after Thanksgiving. And because he's a free agent, there's no deadline on when he needs to return. He can sign with anyone at any time. Everett M., who will have fewer excuses if they perform poorly, Tua or Zach Wilson? I think it's definitely Tua. I think it's no excuses for Tua. With Zach Wilson, it's still too soon to really put the pressure on him and say maybe he's not going to be the guy. He gets at least another year. For Tua, this is it. Up or out. And the Dolphins, if Tua doesn't get it done this year, will be the most attractive destination for a veteran quarterback who is looking around for places to play next year, starting with Tom Brady, maybe continuing with Lamar Jackson and whoever else may be thinking about a new team for 2023, because they already have all the pieces in place. The biggest question mark is what Tua is going to do. At Burn Unit, what's your guess on how much Deshaun Watson has spent on legal fees for a high-profile lawyer like Rusty Hardin? I was asked this yesterday on 95 or 97.5, the game in Houston. And I don't want to guess at a number, but I would say if I were setting the over-under and as the house hoping to make equal bets, so I make the VIG and, the house always wins, I'd go 2.95 million as the over-under in legal fees so far by Deshaun Watson. Because I think that would be a number that would get just enough people bet the under and just enough bet the over. But that would be my over-under is 2.95 million. Last one. What happened to the John Gruden investigation? Well, the lawsuit's still proceeding. And I checked on this the other day. A final order has not yet been entered by the court denying the NFL's effort to force the case into the NFL's secret rigged kangaroo court, aka arbitration. What will happen is a final order will be entered. The clock will start ticking on appeal rights in Nevada. There are two different levels of appeal. What happens is it goes to the Nevada Supreme Court. It can refer it back to an intermediate level court. If it chooses to do that, issue plays out there with appeal rights back to the Nevada Supreme Court. Then after that, U.S. Supreme Court, and we have to assume the NFL will push it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court because it did that with the argument that the St. Louis relocation litigation should go to arbitration. So this thing is going to be bogged down for a while in the question of whether or not John Gruden must go to arbitration. But hey, look, I want it to stay in court. I think it should stay in court. I think it's ridiculous that the NFL, hopelessly conflicted is Roger Goodell, when he's the one asked to decide these issues involving the teams that pay him or the league that he works for. Hopeless conflict of interest. No way to get a fair shake if you are the John Gruden out there who is looking for justice. So I hope it stays in open court. That way also we get to find out who ordered the code red, who leaked the emails that took out John Gruden. And again, John Gruden got what he deserved. It was untenable for him to continue. But the way that it happened, that can also be wrong. It's possible that both things are true. That Gruden got what he deserved, but he didn't deserve it the way that he got it. So it continues to unfold, and I have a feeling it will continue over the coming months and years.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.